The warning sirens began their haunting wail at precisely 1400 hours, echoing across the crystalline towers of the Galactic Youth Academy on Vareth Prime. Within seconds, the sky transformed from its usual lavender hue to an ominous charcoal gray, roiling with electromagnetic disturbances that made the air taste of copper and ozone. Lieutenant Mara Solon looked up from the training field where she'd been supervising the younglings' outdoor exercises. Her human instincts, honed by years of service in Earth's harshest environments, immediately recognized the danger. This wasn't just any storm. This was a Varath ion tempest, the kind that could strip flesh from bone and fry neural pathways in seconds. Everyone inside. "How?" she shouted, her voice cutting through the rising wind. The instructors, a Velkari with 6 arms, a crystalline Zenth, and 2 hovering Orcs, immediately began herding their students toward the reinforced academy buildings. The cubs moved in organized lines, their various species creating a rainbow of fur, scales, and energy fields as they rushed for safety. Mara did a quick head count. 47, 48, 49. Her heart sank. There should be 50. The first lightning bolt struck then, not the familiar yellow-white of Earth lightning, but a violent purple-green that split a training apparatus in half. The thunder that followed wasn't just sound. It was a physical force that knocked several fleeing cubs off their feet. "Keep moving," Mara yelled to the other instructors. "Get them to the bunker!" She turned and ran against the tide of evacuating students, her eyes scanning desperately. The wind was picking up speed now, hurling debris across the field. A piece of metal sheeting whistled past her head, close enough that she felt its passage. Then she saw him. Cub Kale, the smallest of the predator cubs, was huddled beneath the bleachers at the far end of the field. The young Vraxian's normally fierce golden eyes were wide with terror, his small clawed hands covering his head as the storm raged around him. At barely 3 cycles old, he was far from the apex predator his species would one day become. Mara's military training warred with basic logic. The academy was 200 meters away. The storm was intensifying by the second. The smart thing, the safe thing, would be to let the automated emergency systems retrieve the cub once the initial wave passed, but Mara had never been good at choosing the smart thing over the right thing. She sprinted toward Kale, her human physiology allowing her to push through conditions that would have incapacitated most species. Earth's evolutionary gauntlet had forged humans in gravity, temperature extremes, and persistent viral warfare. A little electromagnetic storm wasn't going to stop her. "Kale," she shouted over the howling wind. "I'm coming!" Another lightning strike hit closer, so close that her skin prickled with static electricity. The ozone smell was overwhelming now. Mara's academy-issued coat began to smoke slightly at the edges. The ion radiation was cooking the synthetic fibers. She reached the bleachers and dove underneath. Kale looked up at her with eyes that held a species-old instinct, fear of predators warring with the desperate need for protection. In that moment, he was just a terrified child. "It's okay, little one," Mara said softly, gathering the trembling cub into her arms. He was surprisingly light. Vraxians didn't develop their dense muscle mass until adolescence. "I've got you." She looked toward the academy building. The distance seemed to have tripled. The storm was now a full-blown tempest with visibility dropping to almost nothing. The purple-green lightning was striking every few seconds, and the wind had reached speeds that made standing upright nearly impossible. Mara made a decision. She couldn't run while carrying Kale. The wind would knock them both down. But she could shelter him. She wrapped her academy coat around the small cub, cocooning him against her chest, then dropped to her knees and curled her body over him. Her back was now exposed to the full fury of the Varath storm. The first real strike of ion radiation felt like 1,000 needles piercing her shoulders. Mara gritted her teeth and held Kale tighter. The cub whimpered against her chest, his small claws gripping her uniform. "Shh," she whispered. "I'm not going anywhere." Another wave of radiation washed over her. Then another. Her skin was burning now, and she could feel her muscles beginning to spasm from the electromagnetic interference. But underneath her, wrapped in her coat, Kale was protected. The coat's synthetic fibers, already damaged, were absorbing most of the radiation that penetrated Mara's body. Time became meaningless. Each second stretched into an eternity of pain. Mara's vision began to blur, She could taste blood where she'd bitten through her lip to keep from screaming. Her academy training protocols scrolled uselessly through her mind. This was beyond any acceptable risk threshold. But Kyle was still breathing. Still safe. Finally, after what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, she heard voices, felt hands grasping her shoulders. The emergency response team had reached them in their ion-shielded suits. "Lieutenant Solon, we need to move you both now." Mara's hands wouldn't obey her command to release Kale. Her muscles had locked in place, still maintaining their protective curl even as her consciousness began to fade. The cub first, she managed to rasp. "Get him!" To medical, strong arms pried her fingers loose. She felt Kale being lifted away, heard his frightened chittering. Then the darkness took her. Mara woke 3 days later in the medical wing. Her body was wrapped in regeneration bandages, and she could feel the dull ache of cellular repair still in progress. The first face she saw was unexpected. High Commander Vrax himself, the Vraxian military leader and Kale's grandfather. The old warrior stood beside her bed, his battle-scarred face unreadable. Then slowly, he performed the Vraxian gesture of ultimate respect. He extended his claws and placed them against his throat, exposing his vulnerability. "You protected my grandson," he said, his voice rough with emotion that predator species rarely showed. "When every instinct should have driven you to save yourself, you chose to shield a member of a species your people once feared. The galaxy speaks of human warriors, Lieutenant Solon, but today, we learned of human guardians." Through the doorway, Mara could see Kale peeking in, his golden eyes bright and curious now, no longer terrified. He clutched something in his small claws, her academy coat, carefully cleaned and folded. "That's just what we do," Mara said softly, managing a weak smile. "We protect our pack, even the smallest cub." And in that moment, in that simple act of selfless courage, the galaxy learned what Earth had known for millennia. That humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their weapons or their tactics or their stubborn endurance. It was in their refusal to leave anyone behind.